Welcome to yet another session of Management Decision and Control. To take you through is Samuel Ibanda, and basically today we would like to look at one question. This is a question is taken from this paper of March 2021, the CPA paper of March 2021, and the question we want to look at is question number 5. Question number 5 is around the topic of risk and uncertainty. Risk and uncertainty. Now, this given being a paper of management decision and control, risk and uncertainty is one of the key topics that we look at, because in the same way we have to understand how decision making works, where we have maybe scenarios of uncertainty as well as scenarios of risks. Okay. Yeah. So the question we can just try to run through, and then I'll just give you some small guidance. So the question says that Selaf Uganda Limited is a profit-making company owned by three sisters, that is Cash, Money, and Cabs. SUL deals in real estate industry, which is seen to be a volatile industry. Experts classify real estate industry in 3 seasons, that is boom, static, and decline. The probability of the industry going into a decline is 0.1, while the probability for it to remain static is 0.2. SUL has 3 construction project proposals to consider as detailed below. 1, they have a storied apartment with net income of 300 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 50%, which is 150. It will now get 150 million. Whereas when it goes into a boom, the net income will increase by 300%. They are telling us that bungalows with net income of 400 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 350 million. Whereas when it goes into boom, the net income will increase by 25%. And then we have semi-detached houses with net income of 600 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income reduced by 2/3, whereas when it goes into a boom, the net income will increase by 1/3. So they are telling us that SUL is aware that if the industry remains static, the expected net income will be realized. Okay. However, the owners have failed to make a decision on whether to take up all projects or any of them. Cabs encouraged to her colleagues to use max min, max, and regret decision criteria to reach a viable decision. Money responded, I didn't know that decision making is complex like this. So they are asking us to advise SUL management on the meaning of each of the different terms, max, mini, max, and regret criteria, and the decision to be taken under each criterion given the circumstances above. And then they also want us to give a process to be taken in making a viable decision. Now, before I can try to jump onto the question, I just want to give you a small background when it comes to making decisions under risk and uncertainty. And I'll just use the text that we have within our notes to give us some background. Now, when somebody says risk and uncertainty, now with risk, basically means there are several possible outcomes, and these are known in advance with the related probability, just like the way the scenario we have for SUL. Okay. And then uncertainty, cases where we do not know in advance what the potential outcome of a decision could be, and we can't tell the associated probability. So the 2 words are sometimes used alongside each other, but they totally mean a different circumstance. Now, given the current scenario we are in right now, we have a lot of uncertainty. And uncertainty has been around even before. And in the same way, we also have risk as well. A case in example, uncertainty could be related around the pandemic, as many businesses are now struggling when it comes to not understanding what is next ahead of them. Then at the end of the day, they have to make certain key decisions based on the different parameters. So the different models, we have different models that help us in making decisions when it comes to risk and uncertainty scenarios. And one of those is the probability distribution and expected value. So by probability, we are just trying to mean we are putting sort of the level of chance on either one aspect appearing or one aspect not appearing. And we know very well that the total probability for any kind of outcomes is 1, okay? So that is very critical. And then expected value for it, it's just, it is derived basically from the probability, okay? And I will just give you an example right here, as we shall just see. Okay, so right here. So as you can see now, expected value is more of, it looks at more of the weighted. It's basically the summation of the weighted of each of the different possibilities. So for example, if you're trying to look at a business and a business has different outcomes in terms of profits, when you look at probability, if 0.10 is the probability of getting 600,000 as profit, then the weighted would be definitely 60,000, and so on. 700,000, 0.2, and then you get this. Now, when you add all these, the different weighted amounts that you have gotten here, they will definitely give you to your 800,000. Okay. Yeah, so that is very important for you to know the expected value. So expected value is more derived from the probability, but it has a component of in terms of how much, okay, in terms of how much that we compute with the probability. Okay, so this depending on the scenario at hand, we're able to get the expected value accordingly, as you can see right there. So those are that is one of the first kind of approach in terms of probability and then expected value. Okay, in these notes you also be able to get ways of minimizing project risk and uncertainty, and you've seen that mostly companies undertake such different ways to reduce on risk. For example, insurance is very common, especially when it comes to certain risks that we don't have much control. We may choose to just basically insure, okay? And then the other one could be market research. Market research also reduces on the risk because it helps you get certain level of information on which you can base and make critical decisions, okay? And so on. And of course, that will require to collect some amount of data, and data may be both primary and secondary. And in the same way, that data may also be qualitative and quantitative data, okay? Just to give you a good information. Of course, quantitative, this is data that is so much is in terms of numbers. Qualitative goes into to look at other factors that are not quantitative in nature, okay? Yeah. And then, of course, we have other ways organizations handle risk, like conservatism, where they basically, for them, they are more into trying to find a better way to go past the risk, okay, in terms of being conservative, okay? And so much more using sensitivity analysis, using expected value, and so on. And then we have the other model when it comes to decision making under risk uncertainty also rotates around decision trees and probability tree analysis, okay? And of course, this one is also bases so much on probabilities, okay? Where you have, let's say, a given decision node. Maybe you want to increase on marketing, and now you want to choose which marketing media you're going to use, either online, either advertising, either you're going, or maybe advertising on TV, or you're going to let's advertise on radio. And then you're able to also look at the outcome. What is the outcome that I get when I advertise on radio? What is the outcome that I get when I advertise on social media? What's the outcome that I get? And then also in terms of probabilities, what is the probability that is attached to each of the outcomes? In the same way, the total probability across the different within on a given decision node should basically add to 1. Okay. Yeah. So that is also one of the other models that we use. Now, other than that, apart from that, we also have now the decision making under uncertainty. Now, the decision making and uncertainty, that is when we get to use these different decision criteria, the max min, max max, and minimax, which are being talked about within the question at hand. Okay, so they're telling us that uncertain events are those whose outcomes cannot be predicted with statistical confidence. Okay, so they are just basically in that kind of category. Now, of course, under this kind of scenario, in the same way, we also borrow the use of probabilities. Okay, so here basically, if somebody is making a decision, basically you also have to look at aspects of trying to see what are the possible outcomes. Okay, despite it being certain, what are the possible outcomes, and what could be in terms of you could look at in terms of what could be, let's say, the likelihood that would give you less things like probabilities and so on. Okay, so we have what we call a payoff matrix that we draw here, that we are going to see when we are trying to look at the question at hand. And then we have now the different decision rules. Okay, now the question at hand, as you saw right here, question 5 was asking us down. It was asking us to advise SUL management on the meaning of max mini, max max, the regret criteria, and then the decision to be taken under each criterion. Okay, so yours is to understand what each of these basically mean in the given scenario. Okay, now just to give you a small kind of background on each of them, every time somebody says max mini, yours is to first look at the mini. Basically, this way are saying that in case the worst happens, then we should take what gives us the maximum. Okay, in case the worst happens, we should take what gives us the maximum. A case in point, let's just see something here. So from our question here, they're telling us that storied apartments with net income of 300 million. However, when the industry declines, now this is the worst, okay? When the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 50%. If the net income reduces by 50%, means that this will get to 150 million, okay? And now they're telling us, whereas when it goes into boom, the net income will increase by 300%, which gets us to about 900. It take us to about 900 million. Okay, so it means that in the worst case scenario, storied apartments gives us 150 million. Let's just look at bungalows and try to compare the two. Now for bungalows, the income is 400 million. However, when the industry declines, this will reduce by 350 million. Reducing by 350 million means that it will get to 50 million, okay? That will be the value. So if you're trying to compare between storage buildings and bungalows, one, the minimums of each of them, the minimum of here is 150 and the minimum of here is 50. So the max mini regression rule basically says that we should choose what gives us the maximum and the minimum situations. Okay. okay? So ideally, in this scenario, we would see that storage building, which gets to 150 million, still has a fairer amount compared to the 50 million that is within the bungalows, okay? And that is what happens. So the max mini, as a decision rule for it, it is saying, just in case things don't work out, what gives us the best result, okay? What gives us the best result? And this pessimistic approach is one of the risk attitudes. One of the things that you need to understand is that in organizations, different managers have different approaches or attitude towards risk, okay? We have those guys that are risk seekers. For them, they will go for the best outcome, no matter what will happen. For them, they are ready to take on the risk, and we call those people optimistic. Then we have those people that are neutral to risk. They will not have to make a choice between anything, that either it's more or less risk. They are basically in the middle there, okay? They are basically indifferent when it comes to the aspect of risk. And now we have these guys who are risk averse. These guys fear. They're afraid to take the risk, and we call them the pessimistic, okay? Now, when you're looking at the Minimax decision rule, here we are trying to look at these guys that are what? These guys that are a bit pessimistic, okay? And that's why you see they are calling it a pessimistic approach. So for them, they would choose, if they are to choose between two alternatives, they would choose what gives them the maximum in worst scenarios, okay? That is what happens with the max mini. So it comes from the word max mini. You look at the minimum of each of the different options and then get the maximum overall, okay? And that is the same thing that also happens in this example when it comes to this table. For example, if these are different kind of scenarios, if this is D, this is project D, project E, project F. As you can see, for project D, this is the max. This is, if we are trying to look at, this is sort of like the maximum. And then we have 120, which is maximum here. But now, if you're looking at the aspect of, in terms of max mini, okay? In terms of max mini, what you have to basically do is get here. You have 100, you have 90, you have 20. Now, this is the minimum, which is the 20. So you just put out, this is the minimum, which is 20. In the same way, you also come here. As 120 is the maximum, we have what is minimum. We have 10. 10 is the minimum. So you have your 10 right here. And then when it comes to scenario F, we have 60, we have 85, and then we have 85. So 60 comes out as our minimum for project F in scenario 1. Now, after that, yours is to choose now between the three and choose one that gives you the maximum, okay? So that is what exactly happens with the max mini decision rule, which they were trying to ask about here, as we shall see how this all goes. And then the other they also talked about was the max, okay? Now, max, this is now for the alternative guys, the other guys that we have said, these guys are for them, they are basically risk. They want to go for the risk, okay? They want to go for the risk. They are basically aggressive and optimistic in nature. Now, with the max, what you try to look at are the different scenarios. Basically, look at the different, if there are projects, look at the different projects and see in the different scenarios, which what is the maximum that you can get from each of the project. And the maximum that you get from each of the project, you should now compare and see which one again gives you the maximum of all the maximums that you've gotten out of each of the projects. Just like the way we had here. If this was our projects and these are the different scenarios could be the economy, just like the way we have the other side, we have a boom, static, and the decline scenario. So here you get your 100 because it's the maximum. Then you get your 120 here because it's the maximum. And then when it comes to F, you definitely get your 85, which is maximum. And that means that you now compare the 100, 120, and the 85, and definitely 120 would come out as your max, okay? As your max. And that is the same thing that they actually did when it came here, okay? So project E that gives us the 120 would definitely be chosen if that is to be followed, okay? Yeah, so for it, it's for those guys that are looking out for more benefits, no matter the risk, okay? Yeah, so that is what happens. And then we have now the third scenario, okay? Now, when it comes to our question here, and as we are going to look at it, you definitely look at this scenario, as they have told us that storage apartments with net income of 300 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 50%, whereas when it goes into boom, the net income will increase by 300%. Now, it means that you have to get this 300% of the 300 kind of what? The 300 million and get the value. Now, you compare that with what will happen here. Here they have told us that the net income will increase by how much? Will increase by 25%. So the 400 times the 1.25 will give you the next value here that you'll have. So then you're able to now bring in the aspect of what? You're able to bring in the aspect of comparing which one is maximum of this one and this one, which one is basically maximum, okay? Yeah, so that is very important when it comes to that. And now we have the other one, which is called the Minimax regret rule, okay? The Minimax regret rule. Now, here, we are basically, we are saying that here regret is in the context that is defined as the opportunity loss through having made the wrong decision, okay? So we are trying to say, if at all we make the wrong decision, what kind of regret shall we have, okay? Basically, what in terms of, we have to make sure that we choose the scenario that aims to minimize the regret from making the wrong decision. That's why it's called a Minimax regret rule, okay? And they're telling us that this is basically the difference between the maximum possible value under that outcome and the value that results from a particular action. Now we have a scenario here, and I would basically just to use the same example that we had up there, okay? Now, one of the things that we do when it comes to using this rule, we have to get what is called the opportunity loss table, okay? We have basically to get what is called the opportunity loss table. And the opportunity loss table would definitely help us to make the key decision when it comes to each of the different scenarios. So when you check whatever we have here, so this is basically the table we have, okay? This is basically the table we have. Now, when you look at project D, okay? When you look at project D, and then also look at scenario 1. Now, there's one thing that you're going to realize here, that when you're looking at the max, this decision rule, which is Minimax regret rule, for it, we look at the outcome. So we are no longer looking at the project, we are going to look at the outcome, okay? So if we are to look at the outcome, let's say scenario 1, if we are trying to draw up our payoff table, you're going to see that we are going to come to scenario 1 and pick the maximum, just like the way they indicated here. They told us that this is the difference between the maximum value under that outcome and the value which results from a particular action. So when you look at this 100 and look at this actual point, so we get the 100 is our maximum and get 100 minus 100, okay? And that is why you come down in your payoff table and get 0. And in the same way, we shall get still the 100 minus 80 to give us 20, which we have in our payoff table here. And then we shall do the same thing for this 100 minus 60, which gives us this 40 that we have here. That is for scenario 1 or outcome 1. You also get to outcome 2. Now outcome 2 has 120, which is the maximum. As you can see, we're no longer doing the vertical one, we're now doing the horizontal. So this means that this will be 120 less 90. Okay, if it is this point, it will be 120 minus 90, which gives us a 30. This will be 120 minus 120, which gives us a 0. And this will be 85 subtracted from 120, which will definitely give us something like, I think, a 35. And that is what you have within your payoff table here. And you do that for the last outcome as well, which is outcome 3, which will definitely has the negative 20, it has 10, and then it has 85. So you then choose which gives you the maximum, which is 85. Now, when you get 85, and reduce by what? And remove 20, it's basically 85 minus 20. That would definitely give you the 105. And the same thing would also happen with the second part, which has, this has 10. So 85, which was our maximum here, less 10, you'll be able to get your 75. And then the last one, 85 minus 85, which gives you a 0. So at the end of the day, you have your payoff table laid out. And the next thing that you basically do is now come here and get the max, okay? The maximum of each. So when you try to get here, the maximum here is what? We have 105. And then we have 75 maximum. And then here we have our 40. So at the end of the day, you get now the minimum of each of these to make sure that it's a max. It's basically it's just like the way it has been said. It's a mini max. So you've gotten the max, and then you get the mini of each of those. So right here, as you can see, the minimum of them is 40. So this will give you your your basically max mini, okay? Yeah, so which you basically have. So that is how that would basically go here. So given that background, that is the same thing that is being asked here. This is what exactly they are looking for, okay? Yeah, sometimes that that last option can also be called the regret criteria, okay? The regret criteria, they may not include the so-called Minimax word. It's basically regret criteria or regret strategy at hand. So given that we've understood what we have there accordingly, then we'll go ahead to now look at the question and see how we're going to relate that same information that we have gotten to see how it will play. So we have the scenario, the question. I'll try to read it again, then we can try to calculate and see what could be the results. So the question goes, Selafu Uganda Limited, CUL, is a profit-making company owned by three sisters, Cash, Money, and Cabs. SUL deals in real estate industry, which is seen to be a volatile industry. Experts classify real estate industry into three seasons, that is boom, static, and decline, which are our different scenarios or outcome. And then they are telling us the probability of the industry going into a decline is 0.1, while the probability of remaining static is 0.2. Ideally, you should know that the probability of it going into boom is now the difference, because 0.1 and 0.2, now the difference is 0.7, okay? Yeah, to make one, as you know, probability will always be 1. So they go up ahead to tell us that SUL has 3 construction project proposals to consider as detailed below. So they have the storied apartments with net income of 300 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will decrease by 50%, whereas when it goes into boom, the net income will increase by 300%. And then they're telling us that bungalows with net income of 400 million. However, when the industry declines, net income will reduce by 350 million, whereas when it goes into boom, the next income will increase by 25%. Semi-detached houses with net income of 600 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 2/3, whereas when it goes into boom, the net income will increase by 1/3. So they're telling us that SUL management is aware that if industry remains static, the expected net income will be realized. So this net income of 600 million and then the net income of 400 million and 300 million will be realized just in case the scenarios remain static without having to go to a decline or a boom. And then they go ahead to tell us that, however, the owners have failed to make a decision on whether to take up all the projects or any of them. CAB suggested to her colleagues to use Max Mini, Max, and regret decision criteria to reach a viable decision. Moni responded, I did not know the decision making is complex like this. So they're telling us down here, advise SUL on the meaning of each of the Max Mini, Max, and regret criteria, and the decision to be taken under each category. So we've tried to understand each of these, the meaning of each of these. Now let's try to see what are the decisions that we should take under each of the different categories. So I'm going to open my Excel so that we can try to basically go through that together, okay? Yeah, so you note that the reason why such a topic is very critical at a time like this is because we are just from a lockdown and we are in uncertain times. So much like the examiner would love to try to ask you questions around decision making in risk and uncertainty. And it's not surprised that this question came in March 2021. As just as we're getting into basically a lockdown, okay? After just the lockdown. So that is one of the things that you need to why you need to give this a good focus, okay? Yeah. All right, so here is my Excel that I'm going to use, and we're going to look at the different scenarios and see what to interpret from the information that we have been given. So coming back to here, I just want us to interpret here what has been given in the different scenarios. So we're going to have storied apartments. Just going to summarize the information that we have. So our storied apartments. So we have our net income that we have been provided, and then we have something under decline, and then boom. Okay, then we also have static. Of course, static will definitely be the same what? It will definitely be the same that we have up. So let's see. So we have this is the net income. The net income is 300 million. I'll try to leave the million on it. So they are telling us that if it reduced, the net income reduced by 50%, okay? So if it's reduced by 50%, that means we shall remain with what? With 50%. So 50% of 300 million will give you 150 million, okay? Let me just remove the million here. So to give you this is in millions. That is what we have. And then for the boom, they are telling us that it will increase by 300 million. It will increase by 300 million. Okay. So we have now to basically get what increasing by 300 million would definitely be at hand. So we have 300. So what we basically do is come here. So 300% of 300, it gives us 900. Okay. Now this is the increase. That is the increase. Then we have the original amount. Original amount. So the original amount is 300 million. Okay. The original amount is 300 million. So it has increased by 900. So we're just going to get now the summation of this, which gives us 1,200 million. And then static will still give you the so-called what? The so-called 300 million. Okay, accordingly. This can be in our what? In our working. Okay. Let's do like this. So that is for the storage building. I'll now look at the other, which is the bungalow with net income of 400 million. So bungalow, net income is also in millions. This is 400 million. And then I'll come here. I'll look at say, however, the industry declines, it reduced by 350 million. So it means that the next value will be 400 minus 350, okay, which gives you 50 million. So a decline has 50 million because it's going to reduce by 350. And then boom, let's see what is in boom. So boom, they are telling us that it will increase by how much? By 25%. Okay. So what we can still do when it comes to here, we can just come here. This was storied apartments right here, and our working one. So working two, if we are trying to look at the bungalows and see how they work, So the increase is basically going to be 25%. 25% times 400, which gives you 100. And then the original amount is 400. So ideally, when you try to get the summation of the two things, it will give you 500. Okay, so this will give us a 500 million. Then we're also going to look at the other scenario, which is the scenario of the semi-detached houses. So they're telling us it has a net income of 600 million. So you come here, 600 million. So the net income, still in millions, this has 600 million. And then we have decline. Decline. Now let's look at the decline, what they say about the decline. So they say semi-detached with net income 600 million. However, when the industry declines, the net income will reduce by 2/3. It's going to reduce by 2/3. Now let's see what 2/3 is. Okay, so let's just come here and our working 2, working 3. So working 3, we are looking at the semi-detached houses, and they are telling us that it's going to, okay, this is the first scenario we are trying to look at is the decline. Okay, let me just look at it here, at the decline. So they are telling us that the decline is going to be 2/3, 2 out of 3. Sorry. So the original amount here is 600 million. That is what we basically have. So this is 600 million. So the decline, 2/3, 2 out of 3 times 600 gives me 400. So what that means, if this is, it's going to decline by this, it means we are going to look at our value after decline will be basically the original amount, which is 600 minus the decline, which is 200, which I'll get basically here. Sorry, this is 200. So 200 is our decline amount when it comes to those kind of houses, the semi-detached. Okay. And then we now have to look at the scenario when they are increasing. And let's just see what the question says. Question says that while in boom, the net income will increase by 1/3. So under boom, so the increase is 1/3, 1/3, which this would be 1 divided by 3 times the original amount, which is 600. And then that means that the value after boom will be basically the summation of the original amount, which is 600 plus 200, which gives us 800 at hand. So that is what we basically have. So pick the 800 and bring it here. Say boom. This is 800. Okay. Sorry. 800. That's what we basically have. So what we can basically now do, we can try to create our table at hand. Remember, a table that is very similar to what we just looked at, to recognize the different scenarios. Okay, so we are going to look at yeah, you can call it it's a payoff matrix. It's a payoff matrix. So I'll just come here and say the payoff matrix for SUL. So we have the scenario, and then we can call these others, we can call them projects? Okay, so I'm going to have the different scenarios. I'm going to have let me have static, have decline, and then I have boom. Then for the projects, I'll have the projects as they are: storage building, the storage, apartments, then I have bungalows, then I have the semi-detached houses. That is what I'll basically have. So I can even try to put this in a table. So I'm going to input now the information, just like the way it is here. Under storage, okay, let me just try to copy this. So remember, net income and static is the same thing as per the comment. And then here is the same thing. I don't need this column. So that is what I have as my payoff table. Okay. So I'm going to first look at my first rule. Max Mini. So Max Mini, remember what we said about Max Mini? Okay, where we say that for Max Mini, this is a pessimistic approach which seeks to achieve the best results in case scenarios don't go well. Okay, so we have to get the worst scenario under each of them. So what we shall do, we just try to copy this. Copy this table. So I demonstrate for you. So under this, the worst scenario is when we have the 150 million. And under here, the worst scenario is when we have the 50 million. Under here, the worst scenario is when we have the 200 million, okay? They're actually all of them under the point of decline. So the Max Mini has to look at the maximum, okay, of each of those to give us the Max Mini. So the Max Mini is going to look at you can see that we have a maximum in what? In the so-called semi-detached houses. Why? Because it gives us a 200 million. So the max mini here gives us 200 million, which is for the semi-detached houses. So SUL, when it's making a decision under this decision criteria, they should basically choose the semi-detached houses, since it gives them the basically the maximum outcome in worst scenarios. Basically, that is what you needed to highlight. Okay. Yeah. So SUL should choose to construct semi-detached houses. So that is what we have at hand. Now we're going to look at the other decision criteria, which is max. I'm going to look at max. So max, I'll still pick my table just for demonstration. This was mini. So here I'm going now to look for my maximum. So my maximum here is 1,200. Just put a comma. My maximum here will be 500. And my maximum here will be 800. So if I want to get my max, max will equal to 1,200. So SUL under the max decision criteria should choose the so-called storied apartments. Okay. And then we have the other one, which is the regression rule, which is the regret criteria. Okay. So under the regret criteria, now under the regret criteria, we say that for this one, we are trying to choose an option that gives us the minimum regret for making the wrong decision. Okay. So we have to construct what is called the opportunity loss table, because it bases on opportunity loss. Okay. You know, opportunity loss is the costs foregone for making a decision. So we have to get what we call the opportunity loss table. And it's also constructed from what we basically have there. So just similar scenarios, we'll have, we're going to still have our scenarios at hand. So we have our scenarios right there. And then we have the different the different projects at hand. So I want you to look at this critically. So under static, now, like I said, when it comes to the regret criteria, we now use the outcomes, okay? all the scenarios and choose what is maximum. So under here, our maximum is what? Is 600. Do you see that? That our maximum is 600? Yes, okay. So our maximum is 600 under the detached. So we are now going to subtract through, okay? We're now going to subtract through whatever we have. Now, 600 minus 600 gives us a 0. So here we shall have a 0. Here we shall have 200. Okay, and here we shall have 300, because when you subtract 600 minus what? 600 minus 300, you actually come to that. Are we together? Okay. And then let's go on. So when it now comes to this other, we have our maximum to be what? Our maximum is 200. Okay, our maximum is 200. So it means that here we shall have under semi-detached, we shall have under decline, we shall have this one is 0. Okay, then here will give us 150, and then here 200 minus 150 gives us a 50. Okay, I hope you are following. That is what we have under our decline: 50, 150, and 0. And then we have our last option, which is the boom. The boom, we should also look out for the maximum. So the maximum is 1,200. So this will give us a 0. This will give us 1,200 minus 500 gives me a 700. And then the next one, the semi-detached. Once you get your 800 subtracted from 1,200 gives you what? Is it a 400? I think so. So it gives us a 400. Now, so we have basically gotten under each, we've done our opportunity loss table. So what is the next thing that we should basically do? The next thing we should basically do is look out for the maximum, okay? Is look out for the maximum. So when you look at the storage apartments, if you're getting the maximum here, here it will be a 300. Then what do we have for the bungalows? It is a 700. And what do we have for the semi-detached houses? It is a 400, okay? That is it. And now the next thing that we are going to do, remember, it's called, of course, we are doing the regret criteria, okay? But at the end of the day, what we are aiming at is called the Minimax, okay? We have to get the Minimax. So out of the maximums that we have gotten here, okay, what is our minimum of these? The minimum of these is 300 million. Do we see that? The minimum is the 300 million. And what gives us the 300 million? The one that gives us the 300 million is basically the storage apartments, okay? So it means that under this criteria, SUL should choose to use what? It should choose to use the storage apartments, okay? Because they give the 300, which is the basically your so-called Minimax regret, okay? Because it gives us the Minimax regret rule. So that is basically what we have. And that is how you basically play with each of these different scenarios at hand, okay? So that is what the examiner meant by doing this. But for you, you needed to start with different definitions of each of these by your understanding. And I would encourage you that you can, for you to read more about this topic and find out more, I would ask you to go and relook at this handout, just in case you've not done a look through this handout. Should be able to go through it and understand each of these, how these decision rules work, okay? So the first explanation, you just give an explanation like this one, okay? And then the examiner will be able to mark you that, and then you're able to go to draw up your table and then make the decision at hand, okay? Yeah, so that is how basically that works, okay? That is basically how the different decision rules basically work. Now, just the other part of the question was asking us to basically give a process taken when making a viable decision. Now, this is decision making, okay? Somebody might want to confuse this with what? With the topic. May you think that they are specifically speaking about the topic here at hand, but this is basically to do, this you find this within our introduction, okay? Within our introduction, we basically went through to speak about the decision-making the decision-making process, okay? And I'll just try to just list for you this. As you can see, the examiner also loves setting some theoretical part of the question. So you just need to know what exactly needs to be taken. But so you just know, just try to show you. So these are our first notes on decision making. And basically what decision entails, it's basically starts with what is the decision at hand. The decision could be, let's say, to advertise, the decision to be, let's say, to expand the business, the decision might be whatever you want to do within your business. That's the decision. So you identify what is the decision at hand. What decision do you need to make? The next thing you do is to search for alternative courses of action. For example, if you want to, let's say, grow your business, you can grow your business by expanding, you can grow your business by buying off a competitor, you can grow your business by, let's say, investing in a new machinery with different options. And then after you do that, you collect data on each of the alternative courses of action. Why this is important is because you want to make an informed decision. If I want to expand my business, I want to see what is buying a new machine, what would that bring to my business? If I buy off a competitor, what will be the effect of that to my business? If, let's say, maybe let's say, advertise, what would that bring to my business? And that's the collecting the data of what it means. So after you've collected data and you're now much informed, you now go ahead to select the appropriate course of action. And after you've selected the course of action, it doesn't only end there. you go on to implement, and then finally you do monitoring and evaluation. Basically, you compare what you planned with what you've achieved. Okay, that is basically what would happen when it comes to decision making. So that is what exactly the examiner wanted you to basically highlight there. Okay, yeah. So as you can see, as you have seen, those are the different processes we go through: identifying the decision, or you can say identify the objective. Then you go ahead to look at alternative courses of action, and then you collect data on each of the courses of action. You select the appropriate one, you implement the decision, and now you do monitoring and evaluation. Basically, as simple as that. So that is what I basically wanted to share with you today. And I hope you've gotten something, and I hope you'll be able to relate with your study. Okay, yeah. So that is something that's you need to do. So try to check out for certain questions around this topic and give it more time. Like I said, because of the timing, examiners would want to see your understanding of how to make decisions in uncertain scenarios, and you may be required to have to look at certain scenarios at hand and see how you can be able to make key decisions in those scenarios. Okay, yeah. So that is what I can basically say, and I hope it's been very clear to you. Yeah, so thank you so much, and I wish you well.